I always say, don't go to the doctor for asking for health. Don't go to the police asking for honor, and don't go to the judge for justice. If you are ill, go to the doctor. If you have somebody has harmed you, then go to the police. And if some injustice is done to you, go to the court. Similarly, when I became a doctor more than half a century ago, it's little over 60 years now, I found there are a lot of change needed in medicine. Because what we used to do is, we used to get our patients, to get more patients, we used to frighten them. And the whole thing, medicine depended on fear. Fear of disease in the first place, and that's why you go for a checkup. Fear of dying is the biggest fear, and you go to every doctor the minute you think you will die. Last is the fear of not knowing what is in store for you. So we cash in on this fear and make money, although our ethics says do not make money in the sick room. That's where we make all our money. So medicine was in a bad shape in the 19th century. Actually, to be precise, in 1823, they took a statistic in London. Very few doctors were there. They found that these doctors were incompetent, corrupt, and very, very dangerous. And one of them thought, a young doctor, thought that these were an abscess on the human body and they were killing the human body. So he said, I'm going to start a science journal to teach them science so that they change and the world will become better. So he started a journal called Lancet, The Lancet. Lancet means a knife. So that was the name of the very famous journal, started in 1823. And his name was James Wakeley. So Wakeley died and the journal continued on and off with little difficulty for 185 years now. So the present editor, Dr. Horton, wanted to find out what has happened to doctors after Lancet started and science came in, so-called science came in. So the audit now shows that what was once an abscess on the human body with a corrupt bunch of doctors has transformed itself into a corporate monstrosity which is killing people all over the world. Today you go into a corporate hospital, even if you sneeze, they'll do every test under the sun and then give you a huge bill. And more so if you are insured, you're finished. Medical insurance is the biggest danger thing, because they find out, are you insured? Yes, then we'll do all the tests. Are you rich? We'll do all the tests. And the best part of the whole story is that the poor man doesn't suffer the medical industry. And that's the only saving grace in our country. So what I did was, I tried to sort of change the science of medicine and did a lot of work and published about 250 science journals, articles in various journals all over the world. Nothing happened. Then I thought I'll educate the doctors and the medical students. So I went around medical colleges all over the world, right from America down to the eastern countries, except probably South America and China. And then also nothing happened. Then the last thing I did in the last about 20 years is I tried to educate the consumer. And that has paid rich dividends. What I have done now is I have got more than a few million respondents who listen to my talk and find out and get educated so that they don't become bakras in the doctor's hands. I'll give one for example. Everybody is told you have a block in the heart vessel. But for your information, the block in the heart vessel has nothing whatsoever to do with the heart attack. And block in the heart vessel is something different. Coronary artery blocks are different from coronary artery disease. They are poles apart. But we frighten people because that's the only thing that we can make money with. And today corporate hospitals run on cardiac interventions. In America, they found that bypass surgery and angioplasty are done only to keep the till moving and get millions of dollars of income for the hospitals and doctors, and not for benefiting the patient, because we have known now bypass surgery does not do anything other than remove the pain. If the pain is something that you can't remove by other means, then bypass surgery is a must. But then we do bypass surgery for everybody who has a block. Angioplasties are not to be done at all. Recent studies have shown angioplasty is unscientific. And we also now know that angioplasty and bypass surgery are both just placebo effects. So ultimately, I came to realize that is the human mind that works in disease, in wellness, etc., etc. But where is the mind? That's the question. And even today, we don't know where exactly is the mind. Do you believe that? A man who said the mind is in the brain, Wilder Penfield, the Canadian surgeon, got the Nobel Prize. But after 10 years, he found out that he was wrong. And he wrote an article saying that, sorry for writing what I did. And the mind is not in the brain because brain is a small organ which can't hold the mind. So mind is everywhere. Mind is universal. Mind is a canvas on which your thoughts are projected. And mind is consciousness. And when consciousness came into science, mind had a new connotation. But even today, what do we do? For mental illnesses, we still give chemical drugs. What do? They go to the brain and damage the brain. So there's a professor of neurosurgery and neuropsychiatry. This girl, Grace Elizabeth Jackson in New York University, she wrote a book, Dementia, a drug-induced crime on mankind by doctors. We say, oh, he has got dementia, he has got Alzheimer's disease. This is all created by us by the chemicals that we give. Every chemical that we give is dangerous. So I said, why not take the help of other systems of medicine also, even there's something good about it. So I looked at the reason why modern so-called Western medicine has become dominant, because it's the money power of the drug lobby that has made it, and the government helped it. The American government helped it. Actually, there was a demand in the American Constitution itself to demand that this monopoly of medical treatment should not be there, but that was deleted because the drug lobby worked, because drug lobby was held by the richest people in America. And even today, the drug lobby is the one that runs science. And you all say Western medicine is evidence-based, Indian medicine is not evidence-based. What is evidence? It is the evidence that is created. You can create evidence. For example, for 50 years I have been saying cholesterol is not a disease. Coconut oil is the best oil because coconut oil and mother's milk contain the same fatty acid. So coconut oil can't be bad, and other oils are not good. But nobody believed. They laughed at me. Now United States of America has found out that's true, and now everybody says coconut oil is good. Coconut oil prices have gone up skyrocketing because America has said that. So we want everything come from America because we are 200, nearly 300 years of Western rule. We have become mental slaves. We have become politically independent for the politicians, but not for you and me. You and me are still resident non-Indians, RNI I call you. You are staying here, but thinking with the American mind or the English mind. This RNI mentality has to change. Now, if you go deep and find out what happened was, in the 50s, it was found that sugar is very bad for the heart. Sugar is a poison, which is true. But the sugar lobby got worried. So they hired 3 scientists, so-called quote-unquote scientists. Who is a scientist? I'll tell you later. If I forget, remind me. 3 scientists to create a myth saying that fat is bad, not the sugar. So they created a beautiful thing called cholesterol, fat. And even today, a lot of people call me and say, my fat profile is bad, doctor. I said, what is the fat profile? Don't worry. If it is bad, it's good for you. You will live long. But they worry about it. Then we have a drug for everything. So we always believe that, or the patient believes that the pill for every ill. And I changed that to say that while there is no pill for every ill, there is an ill following every pill. Even aspirin has got so much of side effects. The people used to swallow an aspirin tablet after the age of 40 to keep the heart attack away. The audit shows while aspirin may or may not reduce the heart attack rate, it will 10% of aspirin takers certainly get fatal cerebral hemorrhage, brain hemorrhage. I have lost a very important educationist, a patient of mine, who was vice chancellor of so many universities in Karnataka, very important man, very nice man. He was given aspirin. So I told him and his family, please stop that aspirin. But they wouldn't listen because they said, no, our doctors have given it, we should take it. He continued, and one day he was phoning up a friend of his in the evening and then just collapsed and became unconscious. And when scan showed, he had bled into his brain completely, and the brain was completely suppressed by the brain, and he died on the spot. So this is what is happening. So even aspirin, so don't take medicines unnecessarily. Take medicines very carefully. Then I said, what are the common things? An audit in Canada showed that when a doctor sees one patient, a heart attack patient in society, he will have seen 36,000 common illness syndromes, which are called minor illness syndromes. We don't even teach that in the medical school. We teach about the coronary artery branches or the facial artery branches, but not about minor